well, chat. My name's Brittany, and I've got Jennifer Presley here with us today. Isn't she beautiful? She's joining us this morning. Jennifer is, her and her family come to Southside. They've been with us for about 5 years. And Jennifer is busy. She is a working mom. She works with the Gwinnett County Police, the school district. So she's going to tell us more about that in the chat, but I'm so excited to have her on here. And personally, she's in my small group. We do life together in a small group here at Southside. So I've gotten to get to know her better over the past year. And our husbands go way back, right, Jen? They go, I feel like, how long have they known one another?
I think since high school, since Tequila days.
That's right, Tequila. We're Falcons together. But so they go way back, but Jennifer and I have gotten to get to know each other better this year through our small group. So it's been incredible to get to know her and her family better. And I'm just excited for what we're going to talk about today. We're just going to get to know her better and let her give us some wisdom for this Wednesday morning. And then we'll wrap it up and it'll be a great time together. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started.
Okay.
Jennifer, tell us just a little more about you and your family, the Presley family.
Okay, well, like she said, my name is Jennifer Presley, and I turned 40 this year.
Yay! And you look fabulous. You are 40 and fabulous.
Thank you. I try. We moved to Jefferson in 2008. So I met James and my husband in 2005. We married in 2007. And then moved up to Jefferson, and we've been here ever since. We love the community. We have 3 children. We have Trace, he's 10. He's our rock. He kind of keeps us grounded, and he's a little crazy. We have Kaylin, she's 8, and she's my little helper. And then we have Ellie, who's 5, and she's the one that keeps us on our toes. She's the little spitfire. Yeah. The one everybody needs to kind of keep you young, keep you feeling young. Yeah.
That's for sure.
James and I have been married it'll be 13 years this September. And we're just doing good. He works with me. We both are SROs with Gwinnett County School Police. And that has just been a blessing to work. We don't work together, but to have the similar hours in this profession is just, it's a blessing. So that's about it. We just moved into a new house last October, and we're just, we're doing good considering everything that's going on.
I know. It's been a whirlwind of the past few months. So a couple of things I did not realize. So you guys met in 2005, and that's when Chris and I met too, but we got married real fast. So we ended up getting married the same year we met. But I didn't realize that we met the same year that you and James met. So, and just to speak a little, I forget that y'all work together, kind of like Chris and I work together, which we both work at the church together, but we're kind of the same way. He's doing his worship thing and I'm doing my connections thing. And so we don't work together necessarily in the nitty gritty every day, but it is nice and a tremendous blessing to be able to do life together in that way and be on the same schedule. And I can't imagine, I'm sure most police officer families are juggling just unbelievable schedules. So what an incredible blessing that you guys get to be kind of in the same lane during the week.
Yes. That's been, for a majority of our beginning marriage, we got the worst advice, which was if you stay on opposite shifts, you never have time to argue. But I'm telling you, after so many years, it's like I felt like a single mom, I worked during the day, raised the kids, and then he was 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. And it was just, when I say we're doing great now, because it is truly a blessing, it really is. So.
Yeah. That's coming from that worldview of marriage, right? Not the biblical view of marriage that, hey, marriage is a blessing and it can be really, really good and really, really sweet. So, well, that's wonderful. It's funny how we learn from the bad advice we're given and from the good advice we're given.
Yes.
In life, for sure.
Take it all in. Take it all in.
Yeah, take it all in and keep the good, and get rid of the bad. And sometimes you have to learn that the hard way. We've done that before too in our marriage with different things, for sure. But after, I feel like we're in the sweet spot. We'll be married 14 years this year, or no, goodness, 15 hard. I should know that, but I think you finally get into that rhythm after you get through, you're at the place where you understand one another, and you figured out what things you can't do and what things you need to do to be able to make it work, and just have it be a tremendous blessing in your life. So, well, tell us more a little bit specifically about your job and how you got to be in police work and in the school specifically.
Okay. Guess I'll do a roundabout. So I went to college to be a math teacher randomly, but my minor was criminal justice. I grew up in a law enforcement family. So my dad retired as the colonel of the Georgia State Patrol, and my granddad was the chief of Milledgeville Police for several years, and then he retired as the deputy chief of Baldwin County. So it's been a calling for my family, I feel. They joke because they said when they realized my older brother wasn't going into it, they thought they got away with it. But here I come, out of college, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to teach. I want to be an investigator. Like, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to solve things. And I was going to go straight into the GBI, I guess, try and apply there. But my dad said, if you want to really understand this job, you've got to get police work. You've got to work the road, and you've got to understand people. So I did this thing called the Police Corps, which if you work for 4 years as an officer, they'll pay you back for your college, which was a great thing. So I went and worked for the city of Suwanee for 8 years, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Such a great agency, but I just felt like there was something more I needed to do. I had done a task force for 3 years with a federal agency, so I was kind of undercover when Trace was born, and I didn't have a lot of time being mom, so I kind of reeled it back in and asked to go back to the city. And then I worked as a detective for a year, and I just it's one of those things where I just felt like there was something more, and a supervisor that went to the schools was like, this is where you need to go. Just apply and just see. And it took me 2 times to get over there, based on my years of experience. But I got hired on in 2011, and I just think it was the best decision, honestly. Like, to go to work every day and be able to see people when they are not in distress and when they don't need you, but you can just show them that you're a mother and you have kids and you're a person that cares for them. Kids need that at any age. I mean, I was at a high school for 3 years. I was at a middle school for 3 years. This is my 2nd year at elementary school, and each level, the kids need you in a different way. And
That's
it's just great to be that light that they need in that moment, whether it's mentoring. We mentor. I teach classes, so it's kind of like a roundabout of what I went to school for. It's hard to describe, but I love it. It's great. And you can't say there's a typical day, because there's not. COVID hit, kids aren't there, but we're still getting calls to go and help them from things that happened before school got out. We're still there for the administrators. So it's doing what I love, but at a totally different, I guess, avenue.
Yeah. Well, as a former teacher and administrator, I can tell you the value that you add in a school. I cannot imagine. I mean, I'm like jealous that I never got to have a Jennifer Presley as my SRO or my police officer that was there with us, because it is, especially, as the years keep going, I felt like every year in education, there were new challenges and new, fears and new things that we were facing. And to have that partnership with the police department is just an incredible, incredible blessing for the educators, for the students, for the parents.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. And I love that you say that, you get to be with them when they're not necessarily in distress. But when you get to just meet them where they are and walk with them, you know, through life, and it doesn't have to be this emergency situation where I'm sure you felt that way in your previous work. It's probably a very different feel, and people are in a different position and can receive, you know, different wisdom and different emotions and feelings when they're not in that panic mode. I'm sure that makes a big difference.
It does, in knowing them, and you know, instead of call to call to call, when there is a situation that I am needed, I know their history and I know their past, and we have a connection, and we have, I guess, a bond in a sense where I'm familiar with them and they're familiar with me, and we can usually work a lot of things out with a teaching moment and not necessarily trying to wrap it up and move on to the next thing. So yeah.
And I just think it's neat. Isn't the Lord amazing? Like, you go to school to be a teacher, to be a math teacher, which speaks my language because I taught math primarily, especially my past few years. I worked a lot with math education, but I just think it's amazing how nothing is wasted with the Lord. You know, you went to school to be a math teacher, and yet then you felt like the Lord was calling you to do investigation and police work, but then he brings it full circle. And now you get the best of both worlds, because it's like he gave you the desires of your heart to be in that police officer role, but yet you're using all of that education you got in being in a school. I just think that is how faithful God is, and how nothing is ever wasted with the Lord. And I think that's a good word. You know, there may be a lady watching today who you may be in one of those in-between seasons. I know we work with some young folks, and I've been counseling with some young ladies who are in their early 20s, and, you know, they're struggling with, what is God calling me to do? And I went to school for this, but now I don't want to do that. And they feel like, you know, like they have a setback, or they feel like that time has been in vain. And I've been trying to encourage them. You never know what the Lord is going to do with that. You know, you never know how God can use our history, every moment, every season of our life, he can use for his glory and for his good. And ultimately, it gives us that fulfillment too. And to hear you talk with such passion and such excitement about your job, I mean, not everybody can say that they love to go to their work every day. And I know you do, because getting to know you this year, I know how important your work is to you. And I just think that's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. It is. And I guess what I would say too is just trust. Like he has the plan. He knows what he wants for you. And just because it's not your timing doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. Like the first time I put in, I thought for sure that's where I'm meant to go, but I wasn't ready. And I can see that now. I had to go back. And when I went back to Swanee, I did child crimes, and I did a whole bunch of other investigations that I hadn't done before that first interview. So the second go around, I felt more rounded, and I felt like more of an asset, and I could help more. So just trust that he hears you. He knows what he's doing. You know, you're not in control. You just have to sit back and listen and know he'll use you when it's time. So
that's such a good word, you know, and like the song says, even when we don't see it, he's working all things together for his good. And he's knitting together our story to be able to put us in the right place at the right time. And I think, but we have to be obedient in that. And, you know, I know that I'm sure there were times in your journey to where you are now where you were tempted to not be obedient, because that's where the enemy wants to keep us. He wants to say, oh, stay here where it's comfortable. You know, stay here where you have those walls, those false, that false protection that we like to build around us, where we know we're in control. And I think, you know, I've had a good friend tell me where you feel uncomfortable, when you start feeling uncomfortable, God's probably in that. And he's probably pushing you to do something different, because he wants us to rely on him and on what he can do through us, not on our own abilities and our own level of comfort and our own expertise. And that is a very hard place, I think, especially as women, because we do like to have that security. We do like to have that control and that confidence. But, you know, I like to call it, we need that God confidence, not our self-confidence. And we only get that by taking those little steps, stepping out of our comfort zone, and then trusting him. And it's amazing, because he does far more than we ever expect or that we deserve. It's incredible, even in the times of uncertainty, and probably more so in those times than the times of security.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. All right. Well, tell us more, kind of maybe backing up, or tell us just a little bit about your walk, your faith. When did, how did you come to know Christ and become a Christ follower?
Um, well, I was raised in the church. I was one of those kids that had I was raised Methodist, so you get the pins for perfect attendance, and I did the candle lighting and sitting on the front row. Like I did that growing up, so I always knew him. I always knew about him. Um, but as I got older, I truly feel like I was one of the box Christians where he was in my box. And when I needed him, I seeked him hard. I pulled him out of the box and I would talk to him and ask him questions and I would listen and I would pray. And then when things were going good or when I thought I figured it out, I'd put him right back in his box and just felt like I knew what I was doing and I was trying to be in control. And, you know, I think that's part of my personality and doing the job I do. You solve things, you fix things. And then I thought that I could fix, my life in the same way. But it wasn't until, our marriage was not good at all. I told you about the opposite shifts and stuff. And it was the year that Ellie was born. So in 2015, when it was just about over, the Lord really, things happened that really put a lot of things in perspective and that's a totally different topic, different day, but he did the one thing that would really get my attention and really just break me down. And it wasn't until that year that I fully just dove in. That was the year we started Southside, which is what we needed. Like I said, he knows what he's doing. Sometimes you have to go through those really tough situations when you just ask every day why. But in the end, looking back, you can get that aha moment and you're like, that is exactly why things happen. You need that shock and awe sometimes in your life in order to get you to stop and realize you're not in control and you need him and you need a community to help you. So I guess 2015 started really thriving. We did a lot in the church. We volunteered, and our marriage. The more we seek God, the more our marriage came together. The more the kids learned about God, and it's like everything just fell into place. Now there's no coincidence that we're reading the Bible right now, because I feel like in this time, in this moment, I'm reading exactly where I'm supposed to read in it, because every day I get that, yes, something speaks to me in some way. And I just feel right now where my walk is great because I'm walking with him. I'm not trying to go ahead and see when I need him and pull him out. And I'm not lagging behind saying, you figure it out. I feel like I'm walking with him and I'm learning with him and I'm reading the word and everything's just, 40's good. Everything's right where it needs to be right now. And so it's hard to say that looking at what's going on in the world. But as of now, I feel like now's the most time you have to trust him. I've told a few people reading the Bible and the turmoil that they've gone through, like, who am I to think that my life is just supposed to be about blessings? Like, I'm a Christian and it's my job to seek those that need him and to be the light, and even in dark times. So I know that's kind of off base, but I just feel like as of now it's
That's such a great reminder. And I love all the little, just the practical things you said in that with, I love that analogy of the box. I think I too grew up in church. I don't ever remember a day not being in church. I was there as a baby and all the way up, and a sweet little Baptist church in Beaufort named Ivy Creek Baptist. And I have the fondest of memories, and I learned about Jesus there. And very different from Southside, but just an incredible, group of people. But I too felt that way. It wasn't until I faced adversity, probably in my late teens and early 20s that I really decided that, okay, there's got to be more to my faith than me putting Jesus in a box or putting my faith in that box. But I love that analogy that you said, let's open up the box. I mean, our God is bigger than what we, than many times what we, how we live that out. And I love too that you talked about community and how important that was. And, I know you guys found Southside and we're so grateful that you did, but, there may be ladies watching today that they may be all across the country. And I just think it's important to find a church, find a group of people that you can, because we're Southside, yes, we're a church, but we're a part of God's church. We're a part of his global church. And we want people to be a part of that. And I just think that is so incredibly important. And I know for us, our church, especially Southside, it made a tremendous difference in our life here in Jefferson as well. And really is probably the reason we stayed here, because when we first moved here, we were tempted to leave. So it wasn't until we found that group of believers. So I love that you said that. And then just the power of his word. And I know for those of you watching a lot of our small groups, we've been challenged this year by our pastor. We're reading the New Testament. We're reading the Bible together. And we're in the book of Hebrews right now. And Jennifer's right. Every day, his word is living. It is active. And it is not just a book of history. It is a book of today. And it is, it's amazing that we're in the book of Hebrews right now and what we're reading about with the power of Jesus. It is an anthem of our faith. And I can't think of a time when I've needed that power more than now. His church has needed that. So I just think that's incredible that you touch on that because it's important and it's so relevant for today with everything that's going on and that we're facing. So I don't know. I just think that is a powerful message for people watching, because we can take that for granted. And there's simple things, don't try to put our faith in a box. Find community in his church and read his word every day. Those are simple but powerful steps that we can take in our faith. So tell us a little more too, just what, in speaking of all the recent months that we've been facing as a nation and all the things that have just been changing since COVID hit, what has probably been the most challenging part for you or your family in these recent months?
I guess as a family, James and I are back on opposite shifts again. So because the kids are not in school, I'm days and he's nights. So we get 2 days at night or 2 days on the weekend to see each other. I think that's the hardest at home, but it's working. We see an end in sight. That's always a plus. You always look for the end. It's not forever.
Right.
And it's a blessing that we were able to do it. Some people don't have an agency that can work with you like that. So to be able to do something like that is a blessing. Uncertainty is kind of, it's uneasy. It's, I guess, if you get focused on what's going on, you lose sight of the real end result and the real reason you're doing it. So I don't know.
I totally understand. Yeah. Well, but I think, and you're speaking to what I think most, I know just in my time spent with other ladies and my, all the different ways we've been able to continue to minister to our church in this, those are the number one things I think people are struggling with, is just the uncertainty. There's a lot of uncertainty and unrest about lots of different things. And then I do think COVID forced a lot of people into different different schedules, different routines. Their home was turned upside down. And so whether that's different work schedules for husband and wife, or whether it's just maybe even loss of job, I know that's been a very real, challenge for a lot of people in this, and not to mention the health concerns and everything else. So I think the number one, I think you hit the nail on the head with the number one challenge has been this uncertainty. We don't know. All those things that we, thought were pretty much 100% solid certainties have changed. And I think those are the times where we have to rely on what we do know is certain and what we do have confidence in. And God's word. And we know it hasn't changed and it won't change. And God is who he says he is. He can do what he says he can do. And we can hold fast to that confidence and that certainty, because we as believers, we have that hope that others don't have. We have the hope that Paul talks about, that we should cling to. And I think that that's more important now than it ever has been. And I love that you speak to that.
Don't focus on what's happening now. There is an end result. There is hope, and there's joy coming.
Yeah. Well, just tell us, I know we have a lot of folks facing different challenges right now. What encouragement would you give to them? And you've already kind of given us a lot of practical things, but do you have any final things that you would say to encourage people as they're facing, and we don't know what's next. I know Pastor Jeff, he says 2020 feels like every day he's like, okay, what's going to happen today? But as we continue through this year, and I know things are going to be changing soon. I know lots of things are reopening, but there's still a lot of uncertainty about what different things look like. Just what encouragement would you give to our ladies and those with us?
I guess the main thing is stay focused, stay in the Word. If you try to control it, and if you try to put your hands in it, and you try to be the one to figure things out, it's never going to go as smoothly or as easily as if you just stay focused in the Word. Pray, take time to listen. A lot of times people will pray and they will just, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? And then they will just keep moving. But to take the time to sit and be still and listen, things will happen. I'm proof things will happen. It'll all end up good, and it'll all end up exactly like it's supposed to. It wasn't in my timing. It's not going to be in yours possibly, but just stay focused and stay in the Word and have faith and just trust that he knows what he's doing, and we just have to trust.
That's such a powerful reminder. And I know for me, when I have those doubts, and I find myself, letting the enemy win in my mind and in my spirit, I go back and I don't know if any other ladies do this, but I have spots in my Bible where I have written down where there was no denying that was the Lord's hand in my life. He got all the credit for whatever that was, and I can go back to when we were struggling with infertility and we got pregnant with our first baby. And I remember thinking that we were told we had a better chance of being struck by lightning than that happening. And it did. And so I knew that was the Lord's hand in my life. Mm-hmm. And then when we were facing overwhelming financial challenges and we decided to take a 180 and just be completely obedient in what the Lord was asking us to do, and people thought we were nuts, and we did that. And then the Lord was able to just send incredible undeserved blessings in that time. And I was like, that's the Lord, that's his hand, because there's no other way to explain it. It didn't make sense. And I think, God doesn't always make sense, but he does make miracles. And I think that's where we have to live. And so when I'm doubting and I'm not trusting, I go back to that time and I trace those spots in my Bible. I have them dog-eared down, and I'll go, okay, God, because it reminds me, it gives me that confidence and that strength to tell the enemy, you can't win here today. You can't win in my mind, and you can't win in my spirit, because this is for me. And this is what, even though I didn't deserve, I'm and without him, apart from him, because of what he's done in my life, I have that confidence. And so that's what I would encourage people watch, hey, make those times in your life where you can see his hand at work, and don't forget them. That's where I can't wait. Hands raised in worship, that's what I'm remembering. I'm remembering, God, you are faithful, you are good, and I am not, and look what you've done for me. Because that gives me that energy and that passion and that confidence to step out again, because I know he's good on his word. He's going to make good on the investment that he's made in me. Because that's who he is. That's who our God is. And so I think that word trust is so easy for us to say, but then how do you do that? What does it look like? And, and I think it's true for how we have trust with others. How do I trust my husband? Because I have a track record of times I can go back and say, okay, he said he would do this and he did. He said this and he did. So I built a trust. That's how we build trust friends. And our Lord is no different. Trust in his word and put it into practice in your life, and he will be faithful. Even when we're not, he will be faithful. And that too in the times of uncertainty, and say, okay, God, I'm going to hold on, even if it's a thread in there. And we may have ladies watching this morning that say, Brittany, Jennifer, I'm holding on by a thread. That's all that's left. I would encourage you, and I know Jennifer would back me up, don't let go of the thread. Even if it's the tiniest little bit connecting you to your faith and to the Lord, don't let go, because he will make good on his promises. It tells us in his word that all of his promises are yes, and they are always amen. It doesn't mean we're always going to get the yes. Sometimes the Lord says yes. Sometimes he says no. And then sometimes the hardest one, he says wait. And I think that I loved what you said, Jennifer, about it might not be in our time, but it'll be in his. So whatever answer it is that you're seeking in him, whatever challenge you're facing, I would encourage you to just hold on to that thread and keep reading his word and keep praying. And I love what you said about not just praying, but then actually responding in prayer, waiting, being quiet and still, and asking God for, hey, show me what this is. And the Lord speaks in lots of ways. He'll speak to us.
Talk to you. Yes.
He will. He'll speak to us through his word. He will speak to us through godly counsel. Make sure it's godly counsel and not just counsel, because there's a lot of friends that we have or acquaintances that want to give us advice. And I think that's important too. Right now, there's so many voices coming at us. It's important for us to trust in what God says. And we do that by being deeply rooted in his word, being surrounded by godly counsel and people, whether that's physically or through devices or internet or whatever. Make sure you have that tribe of people that you can say, hey, let me run this through you, and what do you think? Because you know that they're also in God's word. And, God will speak to us in worship. He'll speak to us through prayer and through our life experiences. He confirms things or makes us very clear that that's not the way we should go. So I kind of feel like, Jennifer, maybe this is all wrapped up in that in discernment. God, let us be ladies who can discern your will. Let us be ladies who can discern our next right thing to do that leads us in obedience in our walk with you. And I know, Jennifer, that you're doing that, because we stay connected in our small group, and I know Jennifer's reading every day, and we're talking about what we're reading, and it's just incredible to be able to share that in a safe space like a small group. So I think that's another thing we can take away from this.
It truly is. I'm sorry. I stayed away from a small group for a year, and now that I'm back, you really do need that. You need that connection, and the trusting. We're not built to understand. So if you've got that thread and it doesn't make any sense to you, if you're where you're supposed to be, just know that that's where he wants you, and we're not made to understand why and be able to pick it apart, which us ladies like to do.
We do. And we have to trust that some things are for the Lord to know and for us just to be obedient in. And that's tough. But I think the more we do that, and the more we see that he is working all things together for our good and for his glory, then we are able to do that more and more in our life as we grow. So I think that's kind of where I love that you say, 40's good and 40's fabulous, but it takes us time in our walk with the Lord to establish that rapport and to learn and experience, just like any relationship. So really, when we say yes to the Lord, that's the beginning. It's not the finish line. It's the beginning of what God wants to do in our life. And I think you are just a living testimony of that. Well, I couldn't let us end. We're almost out of time, but I have to ask you a fun question, because, we want to have some fun too. So what are you most looking forward to? We're kind of just at the beginning of official summer. So I know that the school year summer will be over quickly if we end up going back to school as scheduled. So, but what are y'all looking forward to most at the Presley house for summer?
Just spending time, just soaking up the kids before they get back into the routine. It's been fun having them home and being here, and actually it's been really nice not having to run them around places.
Right.
And
I know.
and
Yeah.
So I'm going to soak that up a little bit longer before all that opens up. But just, we don't have any huge plans. We've already done our vacation because our time off is a little off or different. But just enjoying life, enjoying each other.
That slow pace. I know. I told myself when everything shut down that I would never complain about how many practices or places I had to get my kids to it once again, because everything came to a halt, and we were, kind of like, oh no, we don't have anywhere to go, and that's very unlike us. But I have enjoyed the slower pace. I agree. So we're going to need to. It's going to probably take all of us a little bit to get back into that routine of going. But I think maybe we've learned some things that will help us not to get too busy again. So that we
The first day getting them ready for school and having to take them and get them. I mean, that's going to be a reality check. That'll be the moment.
That'll be good. We'll have to do some well chats about that. That'll have to be. We'll have to get other support for sure.
Motivation to get us going.
Yes, we're gonna have to. I'm gonna talk to Candy about that. We'll have to have that on the schedule. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for what you do every day. Thank you for just being an incredible, incredible lady of faith and a kingdom woman who I know is just making a difference. And we're grateful that you would share with us today. I can't believe we made it through without any kids interrupting us. We did good. Between the two of us, we've got 6 that could come in and interrupt us at any time. So we'll have to go give them a reward. But thank you, ladies, for joining us this morning. We hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next week.